Biography of Albert Einstein. Chapter 1. Early Life. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in Ulm, Germany, to a Jewish family. His father, Hermann Einstein, was an engineer, and his mother, Pauline Koch, was a homemaker. Albert had one sister, Maria, who was born 2 years after him. The family moved to Munich when Albert was very young, and his father started a small business. Albert was a quiet child and did not speak until he was around 3 years old. He was very curious, and he enjoyed asking big questions about the world. As a child, Albert was not very good at following rules. He found school to be difficult because he didn't like the strict discipline. However, he loved to learn on his own. He read many books, especially on mathematics and physics. He was very interested in how things worked, and he often spent time building and experimenting with different devices. His love for learning grew stronger as he grew older. At the age of 15, Einstein moved with his family to Italy after his father's business failed. Albert stayed behind in Switzerland to complete his education. He eventually graduated from high school in 1896 and went on to study at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich, Switzerland. There, he studied mathematics and physics, but he struggled with some subjects and did not always do well in school. However, his passion for science grew, and he began to develop his ideas about physics. Chapter 2. Early Career and Struggles. After graduating, Einstein found it difficult to find a job as a teacher. He worked for a few years as a tutor and a teacher, but he had trouble getting a permanent position. In 1902, he got a job as a patent examiner at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, Switzerland. While working there, he continued to think about science and started to develop new ideas about the universe. In 1905, Einstein published 4 papers in a scientific journal that changed the world of physics. These papers explained the photoelectric effect, Brownian motion, special relativity, and the relationship between energy and mass equal. The most famous of these papers was on the theory of special relativity, which showed that time and space are not separate and fixed. Instead, they are connected and can change depending on how fast something is moving. These groundbreaking ideas helped establish Einstein as a major figure in physics. Though he was still working at the patent office, he began to gain recognition in the scientific community. In 1909, he became a professor at the University of Zurich, and over the next few years, his career continued to grow. He became known as one of the most brilliant minds of his time. Chapter 3. Theory of Relativity. One of Einstein's most important contributions to science was the theory of relativity. In 1905, he introduced the special theory of relativity, which revolutionized our understanding of space and time. This theory showed that the laws of physics are the same for all observers, no matter how fast they are moving. It also introduced the famous equation E ab mc L2, which shows the relationship between energy and mass. In 1915, Einstein presented his general theory of relativity, which built upon his special theory. This theory explained how gravity works in a completely new way. Instead of thinking of gravity as a force between objects, as Isaac Newton had described, Einstein showed that gravity is caused by the bending of space and time around massive objects like stars and planets. This was a completely new way of understanding the universe. Einstein's theories were difficult to understand, but they had a huge impact on science. The general theory of relativity predicted that light would bend when passing near a large object, like a star. In 1919, scientists observed this phenomenon during a solar eclipse, which confirmed Einstein's theory and made him famous worldwide. His ideas changed how scientists thought about the universe and led to many important discoveries in physics and astronomy. Chapter 4. Nobel Prize and international fame. In 1921, Albert Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his explanation of the photoelectric effect. This was one of the key papers he published in 1905, and it showed how light behaves as both a wave and a particle. This work helped to develop quantum theory, a major field of physics that studies the behavior of tiny particles like atoms and photons. Winning the Nobel Prize made Einstein internationally famous. He became a symbol of genius and was admired by people all over the world. He traveled to many countries to give lectures and meet other scientists. Despite his fame, Einstein remained humble and focused on his work. He continued to develop his theories, and many of his ideas changed the way scientists understood the universe. Einstein's success also brought him many challenges. He became increasingly involved in politics and social issues. He spoke out about war, peace, and the importance of freedom and human rights. As his fame grew, he faced political pressure, especially from the German government. In 1933, when Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, Einstein, who was Jewish, decided to leave the country and move to the United States. Chapter 5. Moving to America. In 1933, Albert Einstein moved to the United States after Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Einstein was a strong critic of the Nazi regime, and because he was Jewish, his life in Germany had become dangerous. He accepted a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, where he would spend the rest of his life. In the United States, Einstein continued to work on his research, but he also became an advocate for peace and human rights. He spoke out about the dangers of nuclear weapons and the importance of global cooperation. He was deeply concerned about the rise of fascism and the threat of war. His influence grew not only in science, but also in politics and philosophy. Despite the challenges he faced, Einstein enjoyed a fulfilling life in America. He continued to make contributions to physics and received numerous awards and honors. He was a strong supporter of civil rights and was involved in efforts to promote equality for all people, regardless of race or background. Chapter 6. Later Work and Contributions. In his later years, Einstein continued to work on important scientific problems. He was particularly interested in unifying the forces of nature into one theory, a concept known as the unified field theory. He worked on this idea for many years but was never able to complete it. Nonetheless, his contributions to physics during this time continued to inspire other scientists. Einstein also became more involved in the scientific community and in public debates about the direction of scientific research. He was concerned about the development of nuclear weapons, particularly after the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan in 1945. Einstein had signed a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt in 1939, warning him about the possibility of nuclear weapons. Although Einstein was not involved in the actual development of the bombs, he felt responsible for the consequences. Einstein's later years were marked by both his dedication to science and his efforts to make the world a better place. He continued to speak out about issues that were important to him, such as civil rights, world peace, and the dangers of nuclear war. His work and ideas influenced not only science but also politics and society. Chapter 7. Personal Life and Family. Albert Einstein had a complicated personal life. He married Mileva Marek, a fellow student from the University of Zurich, in 1903. The couple had 2 sons, Hans Albert and Eduard. However, their marriage became strained, and they divorced in 1919. Later that year, Einstein married his cousin Elsa Löwenthal, who was a great support to him throughout his life. Einstein was known to be very dedicated to his work, sometimes at the expense of his personal relationships. He often had to travel for lectures or meetings, which made it difficult for him to spend time with his family. Despite this, he loved his children and was close to his son, Hans Albert, who later became a philosopher. His second wife, Elsa, was very important to him, and they shared a close bond until her death in 1936. Einstein's family life was marked by both happiness and difficulty. He faced personal challenges, but he remained focused on his work. His family supported him throughout his life, and their encouragement helped him achieve many of his greatest successes. Chapter 8. Political and Social Views. Albert Einstein was not only a brilliant scientist but also a passionate advocate for social and political change. He was deeply concerned about issues like peace, freedom, and equality. He spoke out about the dangers of nationalism and war, and he was a strong supporter of pacifism. However, his views on war became more complex during World War II, when he realized the importance of defeating Hitler. Einstein was also an advocate for civil rights, especially in the United States. He was friends with civil rights leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois and was outspoken about the need to end racial discrimination. He was a strong supporter of the African American civil rights movement and opposed segregation and racism. Throughout his life, Einstein believed that science should be used to improve humanity. He was deeply concerned about the use of nuclear weapons and advocated for world peace. His political and social views were an important part of his legacy and showed that he cared not only about science but also about the well-being of all people. Chapter 9. Last Years and Death. In the final years of his life, Albert Einstein's health began to decline. He continued to work on his research and give lectures until his health prevented him from doing so. In 1955, Einstein suffered from internal bleeding caused by the rupture of an aneurysm in his abdomen. He passed away on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76. Einstein's death marked the end of an era in physics. He left behind a legacy that would continue to influence the world of science for generations. His work on relativity, quantum theory, and the nature of the universe changed the way we understand the world around us. His contributions to science will always be remembered as some of the most important in human history. Albert Einstein's life and work continue to inspire scientists and thinkers around the world. His theories revolutionized physics and opened up new ways of understanding space, time, and energy. He is remembered not only for his brilliance, but also for his commitment to peace and social justice. Chapter 10. Legacy. Albert Einstein's legacy is one of the most enduring in history. His theories of relativity transformed the way scientists understand the universe, and his contributions to quantum mechanics helped shape the future of physics. His famous equation, E = mc², is one of the most recognized scientific equations in the world. Einstein's influence extends far beyond physics. He was an advocate for peace, human rights, and equality. His commitment to making the world a better place, through both his scientific work and his social activism, has made him a global icon. Even after his death, Einstein's ideas continue to shape the way we think about the world and the universe. Today, Albert Einstein is remembered as a genius whose work revolutionized science and whose life inspired millions of people around the world. His legacy will continue to live on through the countless contributions he made to science, society, and humanity.